Hi guys, more music of this day in oldies music history with some oldies music here. This day in 1970 marked the end of an era with Paul McCartney officially announced the Beatles breakup, while 1971 saw Sonny and Cher's variety show premieres on CBS, and additional in 2000. We don't talk. Not going to talk that far back. This day also in 1937. Gene Lawing of famous jazz and R&B Hum B3 Organs was born. This day in 1970, we said Paul McCartney publicly confirmed that the Beatles broke up. And this day in 1971, we mentioned this. Sony and Cher Community Hour premiered on Disney Plus. I mean CBS. There wasn't no streaming back then. Sorry, I meant this is premiered on CBS. I meant. And we're going to go into more of this day in music history right here that will happen, of stories that happen. Let's get into it. Let's go all the way back to this day in let's go back to this day in 1962. This day in 1962, Elvis started a 2-week run at number one in the U.S. single charts with Good Luck Charm and his fifth U.S. number one of the 60s, also in the U.K. number one hit. This day in 1967, the Beatles were working on Abbey Road Studios in London. That the Beatles completed their sessions of St. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The final recordings were a short section of Gibberish and Noise, which would follow A Day in Life, and then the Run Out Groove that recorded assorted noises and voice when engineer Golf Emmerich then cut up and randomly reassembled edits backwards. At John Lennon suggested they also add a high-pitched 15 killer cycle whistle and audible only by dogs that were omitted for the American version of the album. This day in 1969, Jonas Joplin appeared on the Royal Albert Hall in London. Her first London appearance, the opening act was Yes. And this day in 1973, Tony Orlando and Down started its 4-week run on the number one on the U.S. single charts with Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree. Became the biggest seller of 1973, over 6 million copies. The song was based on a true story prisoner who wrote his wife asking for her to tie a yellow ribbon around Oak Tree in the town square in White Oak, Georgia, if it still loved him. This day in 1976, Women Against Violence called for a Boy Scout Warning Commission albums because of the promotional campaign that the Rolling Stones' new album, Black and Blue. The album was being promoted with a controversial advertising campaign, and the depatched the model Anta Russell Bruce bound under the phase, and I'm Black and Blue from the Rolling Stones owns, and I love it. Oh yeah, this day in 1984, as I mentioned about Phil Collins and his odds his against odds, that was number one. Also, this day in 1978, UK folk Sandy Dinner died at age 31. And let's go into the 80s in the 1980s here, which I did do 82. And more of today's birthdays here. Johnny E. McElwin, apparently the Scottish guitarist and songwriter for that band. Robert Smith of The Cure. Mike Borson, the frontman for Madness. And 1948, Paul Davis, the American songwriter, best known for his radio hit solo career, was started in the Worldwide in 1970. He had the 1977 U.S. number one hit with I Go Crazy, which was hold at the record. The longest chart ran on the Billboard 100 charts, 40 weeks on the chart. And he also had the number one country hit as guest vocalist on the songs by Maria Osmond and Tucker. He died on April 22nd, 2008, sadly. So there's a lot. That is all your music history here of this day in rock history. We'll talk to you soon. Laters.